Coach Ron here with Wise Coaching, WIISE coaching.com with another Tri Tips video. Since I've got a race coming up in the Dominican Republic, which is going to be hot, 90 degrees, 90% humidity, I thought I'd talk a little bit about racing hot. Anyway, this is my take on it. So here we go. Racing in hot weather is tricky. In case you've never been to a hot race or you've never seen one on television, um, it is tricky. Even the pros get it wrong. Your nutritional needs will change. Your hydration needs will absolutely change. Your goals need to be adjusted. Your metrics will change, and specific preparation is necessary. So here's some problems racing in the hot weather. You can perform really lousy, even though you've prepared immensely. So you really need to keep that in mind that even though you put forth your best efforts, you may still not perform well. Even the best triathletes get it wrong. You see the pros do this all the time. They just had the Singapore race on T100 last weekend, and a bunch of them got it wrong. And you think these are the pros. If they can get it wrong, how do I have a chance to get it right? And just face it, you got to be ready for the hot. Um, it's just going to happen. You got to be ready for it. That means mentally as well as physically. Okay, so your metrics are going to change. More than likely, your heart rate is going to escalate, which means that your power and your speed are going to drop. I've seen this in my own racing quite a bit, where I'll be working really hard. I'll be at an RPE of 8, and I look down at my power, and it's like, oh my God, my power is gone, and that's likely to happen to you as well. Your energy level will certainly decrease. Um, it's just the way it is. Your body heats up and your energy drains out. And you may get frustrated by it unless you're mentally prepared for it. So let's continue. Uh, Getting used to the heat is a multi-phase process. Something you need to prepare for in advance. And there are some caveats here you got to be really careful with because I think a lot of people get this wrong. Um, your performance may suffer if you do too much heat training. We saw this with Lionel Sanders last year. He was training a lot in Tucson. I think it was Tucson, and the weather was just hot, hot, hot. And as a result, he could not train at the efforts and speeds that he was used to. And you would think, if you're going to a hot weather race, that that's what you need. You need to train in the heat. Well, too much in this case is a bad thing. The other thing is to do too much heat training race week. You see this a lot. We go to Kona quite a bit for the Ironman World Championships, either to compete or to watch and volunteer, by the way. And you see a lot of people out there in the sun in the midday, just slogging miles out on the bike and on the run. And again, you're just going to wear yourself out if you do too much heat training. So be careful with that. The heat training that I prescribe to, that I recommend, is sauna, steam, and spa training before you go to your race. And this can be as much as 2 or 3 weeks ahead of your race. And try to spend, I would say 30 minutes or so per day in the heat, in the spa, the sauna, or the steam. That's what I've been doing with the lead up to the Dominican Republic 70.3. So I'll let you know how that works out. But that's been the goal, is to spend about 30 minutes a day in the heat 2 to 3 weeks before your race. Theoretically, and things that I've read, would state that those effects should last you a couple of weeks after you finish that. So don't worry if you're going to be in your race location a week before. those benefits should still linger long after that. And then besides that, there are heat health benefits to this heat training, cardio, mood, hormones, and stress. Those can all improve with this heat training. So it's something you might want to consider, doing throughout the year. Nutrition and hydration. Again, this is a tricky one because many times your testing and your training seldom matches your race conditions. I know when I do sweat tests, I'll do them at home or I'll do them at the gym, and those are not the same conditions that I'm going to face on race day. I'm going to be swimming in 80 plus degree water. I'm going to be racing in 90-degree, 90% humidity conditions, windy conditions many times. So even though you do your testing and training in the heat, it may not match your race conditions, so you need to be prepared for that. And then my next point here is to take educated guesses on your testing and training protocols because you may need more nutrition, you may need more hydration as a result of your race. And sodium levels, also a very important one. I get reminded of this all the time for myself. I'm not one that's really prone to cramping, although it's funny, I did cramp on my swim this morning, and I was reminded that I'm probably not taking as much sodium lately. So boost your sodium. Some people take up to 2,000 milligrams a day. That's more than likely too much for you, but just be aware that some racers are going to need that much. And then also I did a video a while back on bonking. You might take a look at that one. I've got some tips in there as well. Then race week, I mentioned this one already. Don't do too much in the heat. You don't want to wear yourself out, prior to your race. Do your normal carb loading. It's not necessarily necessary to over carb load because of the heat, but do your normal carb loading. And then take a bit more salt in with your meals, and you can supplement that with your, salt tabs and precision hydration, electrolytes. And try to stay out of direct sunlight. This is another key one. Try to stay in the shade, even though you are in the heat. Okay, race day. Obviously, hydrate well before your race. Hydrate and fuel during the bike and run. It's critical. You're not going to be able to do any of that during the swim, obviously, but during the bike and run, you're really going to want to be careful and stay ahead of that hydration. And again, in that bonk video, I've got some guidelines for you there. Cool with ice and water whenever possible. Part of the reason why I like to run with a hat on is so I can take ice at the aid stations, put that into my hat, and then put that on my head. Sticking ice down the front of your jersey, down the back of your jersey, down your shorts, anything that you can do to cool yourself down. Put some in your mouth, put some in your hands, do whatever you can to try to stay cool. And that includes arm coolers. A lot of people find that they have really good success with these. Keep those wet, obviously. Once they're dry, all they're really doing is keeping the sun off you, which is fine, but it's not cooling the way that it could. And you see a lot of people racing these days with the Amius head coolers. They're not cheap. They're about $200. And obviously, if the pros weren't having success with them, they wouldn't be using them. So, check that out. It's I think if you go to just do a Google search for Amius, you'll be able to find them pretty easily there. And then again, on race day, if you're not peeing enough, and that means you should pee at least once for a 70.3, at least twice for a full Ironman, you're just not taking in enough fluids. So you need to make sure that you're staying ahead of it, that you're, definitely urinating at least once during a 70.3 and twice during a full Ironman. Got a couple more tips for you. Again, I mentioned this before, but expect less from your race. If you're a 6-hour 70.3 person and you're going to hot weather, don't expect a 6-hour 70.3. Like if you just done Oceanside, the weather here was perfect that day. If you finished in 6 hours and you're going to the Dominican Republic, don't expect anything under 7 hours. It could be quite a distance from your cooler weather half Ironmans. Stay ahead of your hydration. Take more liquid nutrition. This is another one. I've mentioned this before, but the nutrition that I take in on the bike is 100% liquid, and it's easier to process through your system. As a result, it's not as taxing on your system as solid foods would be. If you're eating solid foods on the bike, it's harder for your system to process that. And as a result, your blood circulation is working hard to digest that food, and it's not doing what you want it to do, and that's to cool your body. So consider liquid nutrition on the bike. Lots of sunscreen. You got to use lots of sunscreen. You definitely need to be careful of that. Sometimes, even though we've got really good sunscreen options, you still see a lot of people with really bad sunscreens after the race in Kona. Be sure you hydrate well, and also take your salt in after the race. And then last but not least, this is a very rare one, but watch for signs of hyponatremia, which is taking in too much water. Okay, and as always, what's next? What are you going to do? Give my free 14-day free trial, no credit card needed. Give TriDot and give me as your coach a 14-day trial. Continue with any of the 6 options after that, or discontinue it altogether, ranging from $14.99 a month to $450 a month. And I'll see you at the races.